Do college football conferences actually even mean anything anymore? Welcome back to another episode of HeyUSA podcast. My name is Nick Garcia, senior reporter at PAC12, and with me as always is Brant James, lead writer of PAC12. Brant, 4th of July weekend, we saw a hot dog eating competition. What'd you think?
It was gross. It was gross. It was always going to be gross. People just shoving parts of thousands of pigs down their gullet, soaking buns, slurping them. But I was interested because we did the interview last week with Pat Bertoletti of your neck of the woods, Chicago area, and he wanted to finish 5th, and it was good to see the young man accomplish his goal. He finished 5th by choking 33 and a half hot dogs down his gullet. So, America.
Those glizzy gladiators were something to watch. It's insane. My favorite part, one, is obviously the intros. The intros are the best. So much detail. It's just imaginative. It's crazy. But my favorite part is seeing the other competitions that they eat in other than hot dogs, like pints of ice cream and wings and stuff like that. So it's just nuts to see the feats that these people can accomplish.
It's simply incredible. Just going through, and yes, I will shamelessly say go back and watch last week's interview again. It's on YouTube. There's audio versions everywhere. You'll have a tough time looking up what I'm telling you. Look up if you go to the audio version. But if you click through the link to the Major League Eating website, just a list of records for all of them are impressive. Patrick Bertoletti once put down 444 chicken wings in a half hour. Absolutely insane. He's got oyster records. He's got records for ice cream. He ate 3 Mars bars in a minute. And when you first think of it, I was like, well, that's not that much. You try to put 3 Mars bars down your pipe in a minute. That's a hell of a lot. He's got ice cream records. It's simply incredible.
It is crazy. And much like you did say, his 10 years retirement coming out, wanted to finish top 5, which is, for us non-competitive eaters, sounds like an easy thing to do. But then you see the juggernaut that you're going up against, 20 dogs more than the next closest person. Yeah. I think Pat held his own and did well, accomplished his goal. Solid for him.
Absolutely. And it was a down year for Joey Chestnut. I mean, is it the dead bun era? Can you not just put down the buns? Can you not just put down that many hot dogs in the past? He came in 10 under or 12 under the record, but he still just cruised. No one could hang it.
If anyone from Nathan's is listening to this, which I hope that they are, and they should be, much like you out there, give these guys an awning, just a little shade. Maybe that'll make all the difference. Just something to – one's got to imagine that the heat just beating down on them plays a factor into these type of things. So just give these guys a little shade. Let's see what's up.
Yeah. I mean, the Cowboys get to play in a dome, or the Falcons get to play in a dome if they need it. Let these guys play in a dome.
Yeah. Moving on. You got a little story about kittens. Is that what was that?
Kittens. Who doesn't like kittens? It is an incredibly convoluted tale of kitten rescues. Very cleverly named Billy the Kidden out of Hampton Roads, Virginia. And it's a story of just unscrupulous self-dealing in the gambling industry, regulating charitable poker games. The state of Virginia legalized charitable poker a few years ago. They pitched money from this out to organizations like Billy the Kidden. It's only $500 a week, but you rescue cats. You take what you can get. Save little felines. This underhanded stuff going on in Virginia was so bad that 2 years ago, the state began looking into it. Like, one of the commissioners from one of the charitable gaming foundations had an illegal card room. He's like, I'm going to get a license. So he just opened them. People are just opening them. People getting money from the gambling industry, just unlicensed poker rooms. So finally the state said enough, washed its collective Commonwealth hands of it. And so you don't have any more charitable poker rooms, which cuts off the lifeline for the freaking kittens, man. What are we going to do about Virginia's kittens? I'm concerned about Virginia's kittens.
That is kind of great. You wrote a story on this, or currently writing one on this?
Oh, it's just click it. Click it. Your heart's
link
going to
down
break.
below.
Your heart is going to break for the Kittens of Virginia.
That is, I mean, the things that you can tie gambling revenue to, and in this case, kittens, but
Kittens.
you know, I mean, education, infrastructure.
Colorado is about water. They passed sports in Colorado for water because it's kind of a thing because everyone's trying to suck the Colorado River dry, just like the River Po in Italy. Feel bad for that. An Italian river just went dry. Who's going to cry for the Po River? In Italy.
Well, like Brant said, click the link below, read that story. It sounds pretty interesting. Let's do it. But on to the meat of today's relatively short discussion. I mean, it's just us laying our thoughts out. But the news that last week, Southern California and UCLA decided to jump ship from the Pac-12 and head to the Big Ten. At first, there was like a set of tweets that came out. I was like, this is a rumor mill. This is never going to happen. They're Pac-12 through and through. But it shows how much these conferences really, do they even give a shit about, their loyalty to the brands, or is all about that crispy dollar bill, Brant? What do you think?
I don't want to hear any more about these, what do they call them? American, is it AAU? The American blah, we got smart professors thing. I know the Big Ten prides itself on it, and it was hilarious that as soon as Nebraska, which was then a good football school and now it's not, as soon as it got in the Big Ten, it lost that designation. So suddenly they were the outcasts, and then they sucked in football soon after too. I don't want to hear about it. We were always going to have the mega conference. It was going to be Network A, Network B. It was probably going to be Fox and ESPN. And here we go. Now, it is surprising. You thought there would be some East Coast, West Coast loyalty going on. And it's hilarious. Someone tracked it. It is closer to fly to Reykjavik, Iceland from Rutgers than Rutgers to UCLA. which is just awesome. You enjoy, you go try to get yourself a new library, UCLA and Rutgers. The pretense is gone. This is not about education. This is the next step developmental tier of NFL, NBA, whatever.
Yeah,
it's hilarious. I can't imagine it stops there. I mean, I worry about my school,
definitely not.
West Virginia. Yeah. I worry about West Virginia. We're always nervous about what's going to happen because media market. There's 800,000 people in the state, very loyal fans, not many TVs. I think over the top and streaming sort of alleviates the cable package worries anymore. They seem to be okay in the Big 12. All right, let's go poach the Pac-12. But eventually, there's going to be one mega super conference in goddamn Texas and Oklahoma. Teaming up with the SEC will start that, where there'll be a 12-team mega conference with its own TV deal and its own playoffs. They'll say, "Screw you, NCAA," and this is just getting us from there to here to there. That's just the bridge. We're on that long toll way to that.
So I would piggyback off you and say that although I am not worried about my alma mater, Texas Tech, from a football standpoint, because they really haven't been relevant since like the 06, 08 season maybe, but I am worried about the team that I do root for in Florida State. There were rumors before the Texas-Oklahoma thing that they would have jumped ship from the ACC to the SEC. That was back when I was a naive person saying, no, super conferences are never going to happen. It's only going to be, I was holding tight to this theory. Now it's almost to be, is it going to be the Big Ten? Is it going to be the SEC? But here's my hot take for you. If you're going to build a super conference, build it. Don't let the Rutgers of the world, the Northwesterns, the Indianas, the
Vanderbilt,
Georgia Techs, Vanderbilts just piggyback off that, because you mean to tell me that Northwestern is going to be able to compete in a super conference against Alabama's, the Ohio States, the Oklahomas, the USCs now of the world? That's not going to be any fun to watch. Yeah. I don't care about a 58-6 bloodbath up here in Evanston, Illinois. Like that's trash. Take the best schools, build the best conference.
Yeah, and it's truly about TV, and certainly it is. You're going to get a bigger number for two very good teams instead of watching Alabama have to play that requisite game against Vanderbilt that's just on the schedule. Unless they schedule those guys, those guys take the place of the the D2 that they factor in later in the season before they play Auburn or something. I don't know.
I think the Ivy League needs to open up its doors a little bit, and then Northwestern follows in there. Rutgers, hops into that, but it's scary because you are leaving out rich programs who, like a Stanford or Oregon, in recent years have been a top 5, top 10 team, and from a history standpoint, been there super long time. What are they going to do? Mm-hmm. Is Stanford next year going to be an SEC team? The way it's looking, whoever will open the doors and be like, yeah.
It's hilarious because Stanford has had some great football years, produced, some football players in the past, like one called Elway. I think he went on to do something. But we'll call McCaffrey, he did something. But, I mean, they produce good teams, and they produce good teams top to bottom and also in the so-called Olympic sports. They won what they call it, the President's Trophy multiple times. A pretty good golfer came from Stanford, too. I can't remember his name. Maybe the production team could just put a picture of that guy up there. I think you know what I'm talking about. But they're an outstanding athletic program, and they also combine the academics, and now they're just maybe they tag along in the slipstream of an Oregon or something, because you got to figure 19 Oregon and Phil Knight are going to get a seat at the table somewhere.
And I would say, I mean, going back to the now, I'm not dogging teams like the Hoosiers from Indiana or Illinois, but this is strictly speaking on a football conference level, because other teams can do good, and Northwestern can make a run at a basketball championship. Stanford can make a run at a baseball championship. This is speaking primarily for football, but these Big Ten, the SEC, the more that they add a Stanford, they add a Oregon, these lower teams are just going to get pushed further and further and further down. Now Stanford and Oregon go in there. Indiana's like, great, I'll be on TV, but is it really cool to see me get beat? I got Ohio State, Stanford, Oregon, USC, Oklahoma, and Texas on my list now. Yep. And now, that's 58 drummings in a row. So it doesn't really make it much fun from a fan standpoint.
It doesn't. And it'd be fascinating to see how this affects both the NIL deals, if it only really matters to be in one conference, and the transfer portal. Boy, is the transfer portal going to be burning it up to the super conference.
Yeah, right.
Or burning it up out of there. I mean, honestly, if you can't hack it, you're not playing, and you're going to be shipped. You're going to be self-relegated right on out. HeyUSA.
Maybe here's the plan. Maybe these teams need to be all in one conference. Then the big guys are like, all right, now we're splitting from this conference, and us 8 are going to form our own thing. Instead of cherry picking from all the others, it's like, the top teams in the Big Ten are about to go form their own little conference.
Yeah, it's the Champions League. It's the Super League that they got shouted down in Major Pro Soccer just less than a year ago.
It's funny. I read this ESPN article that said the Pac12 and the ACC were the two teams that shot down the 12-team expansion. Yeah, and then the other teams are just like, well, screw that. We're going to go start our own thing. So,
the Alliance, peace in our time. Yeah. The Alliance is scary. There's two things that, as annoyed as I am that Notre Dame is the next domino, it's always Notre Dame. They annoy the hell out of me, but obviously they're a very desirable property. And again, how do you know someone went to Notre Dame? They'll tell you. But Notre Dame is the next one to go. It's got to be annoying to Oregon and Washington, major metro area in Seattle, that they're getting held up on that. So that's obnoxious. But as much as that kind of pisses me off, I am so amused at the thought of Dabo Swinney pacing around his office in his orange and his purple, just watching Clemson burn, thinking, I have, more than ever, I have got to get my ass out of here, and we got to get Clemson, as they like to say down there, up there for me. Clemson. We need to get Clemson in SEC. Get on the TV.
I mean, I guess I have to bite the bullet and say that logical standpoint makes sense for Florida State to join the SEC. From a competitive standpoint, I would love them to have joined back in their glory days, when they were doing good. Now, not so much, because it's going to be a lot of rebuilding. But then again, it just helps with recruiting. It helps on different aspects of the game. Kids want to play in the SEC. Kids want to play against Alabama, go to Alabama. So if you can get that on your schedule, they'll love it. It'll be nice. Notre Dame's off the list, but who do you think is the next team to kind of jump ship or go somewhere?
Yeah, I think Notre Dame says no just because they're pissy little babies and they're just going to do it and whatever. They do this and they always get the benefit of being included in a playoff. There'll be some carve out for them like there always is when the inevitable playoff happens. Oh, but there'll be a Notre Dame wild card and they'll take a spot from someone who probably deserved it because, thumping Brown 52-0 as they did in week 3 on NBC clearly puts them in the playoff. Yeah. Moving on, I don't have many feelings on that. It's got to be Oregon. It's got to be Oregon. It's Nike University. Come on. All those uniforms, they need to be on TV every week. Haven't won a national championship, which is crazy when you think about it. But they've got crazy mad money going back and forth. A scenario that I would love to see is I would like to see Oregon in the Big Ten because each year there's so many teams. It wouldn't be every year. But every year or so, you would have the Nike versus Under Armour Bowl. I don't know who the founder of Under Armour is, but they basically own the University of Maryland, which is why University of Maryland, my home state, almost went there, didn't want to go to 13th grade. Big rivalry with my school. Anyway, moving on. Know a lot of people that went to Maryland. Great flag. Love that red, white, gold, and black. But Maryland's uniforms are just absolute atrocities. They're trying too hard. The Terrapin has no clothes. They're going to be putting on the most skanky-looking duds when they try to play Oregon, and Oregon's always awesome uniforms. It is going to be the most garish.
Yeah,
your eyeballs are going to bleed. It's going to be Stranger Things. It's going to just be bleeding. Your eyeballs are going to be bleeding. That's going to be great. You're going to have Under Armour versus. We need Adidas to go buy themselves a school. I know that's a European company. Adidas First Americans, and have them jump in.
No, UCLA switched from Adidas to Under Armour. I think Texas A&M is Adidas. My favorite Maryland uniform is the white one with the word Terps on the side, but it's like the all red, the old school throwback one. Yeah. That one's a beautiful looking uniform. Oregon. Okay. I would say that mine going out of the box here. I'm going to say Miami is the one that jumps. Like they history storied program, good, haven't been relevant in this decade, but the name, the likeness, all that stuff is there. They jump ship to the SEC, and then the ACC just starts crumbling from within.
That pretentious little ACC. Oh, Tobacco Road. How come no one wants to come play with us anymore? Bye-bye.
I like that they did away with the conference model. It's just the best two teams. I feel like a lot of conferences should have done that in general. That way it makes just better. But then again, in the spirit of competition, it doesn't help teams like the Northwesterns of the world and the Marylands of the world. They thrive on being a conference that gives them the opportunity to play for a championship, Big Ten championship, things like that. Whenever you throw those out the world, it's just whoever the top two guys are, regardless. It's going to be the Michigans and the Ohio States playing for the championship in the Big Ten for the next few years until Lincoln Riley comes in and then just starts throwing the ball 87 times a game, and now it's USC versus Ohio State for every title.
Can you imagine how happy those Michigan and Ohio State, granted a lot of kids come from everywhere, but can you imagine how happy they're going to be to see blue sky while they're playing games in California? They'll be like, Mama, what's that? What is that? I only see that in the summertime.
If I was Penn State, I'd be like, we get UCLA and USC in November in Pennsylvania. Like, you guys got to come here.
Oh, imagine the punsters when you've got USC playing Michigan State. Oh my God, you got the Spartans and the Trojans. It's going to be broadcasters are going to be insufferable.
Yeah, it's going to be something. Anyhow, I figured we would just chat a little bit about that. We'll touch briefly on how do you think that gambling would be impacted for realignments and stuff. I would imagine that it's makes the odds a little bit better. You see some teams, like one can only imagine what the line on a USC at Ohio State game would look like, or, University of Michigan traveling to UCLA in early November for a game. One would imagine that the odds and lines for that would be kind of insane.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it here quite often. You should never bet parlays; they're just a sucker, and the house wants you to, but you shouldn't. But when you pile 10 games on there with reasonable odds, and all of a sudden it's a plus 4,800, you're like, oh yeah, and you're going to lose. Even though the PR firms from all these sports books, they'll tweet out how someone turned $1 on a 95-leg parlay into $7.4 trillion. You're not going to do that. But this will make those tougher because you're going to have less of Alabama versus Alcorn State to pad out your parlay. You're going to have to really make some decisions here.
Yeah, it's going to be nuts.
And all of the money in the United States will be bet on college football. And I don't know if there's going to be any left for the NFL. Yes, of course there will be. Yeah, but a lot of money.
Brant's hot take right there. Nothing left for the NFL. No. For those who don't know, USC and UCLA will be jumping ship in 2024. I believe Texas and Oklahoma will be vacating the Big 12. I believe their lease is up in 2025. And
unless they buy out early.
Yeah. But there you have it. This is our landscape talk for college football. Brant, do you have anything else to say before we go?
Just save your money because you're going to bet it all on college football in about 2 years. Don't do that. Bet responsibly. Know your limits. Don't bet parlays. Save the kittens.
Boom. Save the kittens. Like, follow, subscribe. We'll be back next week.